Have you ever felt like you're working harder than everyone around you, but somehow you're still falling behind? Maybe you're the first one in the office and the last one to leave, but your results don't match your effort. Maybe you work 12-hour days while your colleague works 6 hours and gets promoted instead of you. Or maybe you're exhausted, burnt out, barely sleeping, yet you watch others succeed with what looks like half your struggle. If you've ever wondered why hard work isn't enough, if you're tired of being tired with nothing to show for it, then this story will change how you work forever. Because once, there was a farmer who almost destroyed his life by working too hard until one encounter taught him the difference between effort and strategy. Stay with me until the end. In a wide farming valley where the land carried the memory of generations, there lived a 32-year-old farmer named Thomas. He had inherited 10 modest acres from his father, along with a single belief that shaped every decision he made: work harder than everyone else, and success will come. Thomas woke before dawn, every day, without fail. While the valley still slept, he was already in the fields, hands in the dirt, back bent low. He refused machines that could make the work easier. He planted by hand, watered with buckets, and pulled weeds until his fingers cracked and bled. By sunset, his body ached in ways that no longer surprised him. Pain, to Thomas, meant progress. At night, he barely had the strength to eat. His wife, Sarah, would sit across from him, watching him chew in silence. Sometimes she reached for his hand and said softly, "You don't have to live like this." Thomas always answered the same way. Hard work never fails. If things weren't improving, it just meant he hadn't given enough yet. But the seasons passed, and nothing changed. Despite his relentless effort, the harvests were thin. Bills stacked up. Joy disappeared. The harder he worked, the further behind he seemed to fall. Next door lived Richard, a farmer Thomas had known his whole life. Same age, same amount of land, fewer hours. Richard worked short days, took breaks, and somehow still produced twice the yield. In the evenings, Thomas would see Richard laughing with his family while he dragged himself home in silence, and the comparison gnawed at him. Then came the drought. Water grew scarce, and panic spread through the valley. Thomas responded the only way he knew how: by pushing harder. He woke even earlier, hauling bucket after bucket from a distant well. His body protested, but he ignored it. Effort had always been his answer. One afternoon, under the brutal sun, his vision blurred. The bucket slipped from his hands. Thomas collapsed between the rows, breath shallow, heart racing. When Sarah found him, he couldn't stand. The doctor's words were calm but final. His body was shutting down. If he didn't stop, he wouldn't make it to the next harvest. That night, lying awake, Thomas stared at the ceiling and felt something unfamiliar settle in his chest. Not exhaustion, not fear, doubt. For the first time, he wondered if everything he believed might be wrong. A few days later, still weak but steady enough to walk, Thomas did something his pride had never allowed. He went to Richard's house. They sat on the porch, overlooking fields that were green and calm despite the drought. Thomas spoke quietly. He admitted he didn't understand. Same land, same weather, completely different results. Richard listened, then led him to the tool shed. He placed 2 axes on the table, one dull, one sharp, and handed Thomas the dull one. Thomas swung until his arms burned, barely marking the wood. Then Richard took the sharp axe. A few clean strikes, and the log split open. "You've been swinging longer," Richard said gently. "I've been sharpening." Effort matters, but direction decides. They walked the fields together. Richard showed him systems that worked while he rested, focus that replaced chaos, and the way rest made his decisions clearer instead of slower. He didn't work less because he cared less. He worked less because he thought more. Thomas went home with a quiet mind and a strange sense of relief. The next morning, he didn't rush outside. He sat at the table with Sarah and a notebook. For the first time, he planned. The changes were small at first. One system, fewer crops, help during busy weeks. And then something unexpected happened. With time to think, Thomas stopped reacting and started choosing. Months later, the farm looked different. But more importantly, so did Thomas. He laughed more. He slept. He ate dinner with his family. When the next harvest came, it wasn't a miracle. It was better than anything he'd ever had. One evening, Thomas stood at the edge of his field as the sun dipped low. The land was quiet. His body was tired, but his mind was clear. He finally understood what years of exhaustion had hidden from him. Hard work built the road. Strategy showed him where it led. And as the valley settled into night, Thomas knew he wasn't falling behind anymore. He was finally moving forward.